This is just a kind of optional video for you guys since you will be using InDesign in your studio pretty quickly. I wanted to give you a quick intro to the program. It's one of the Adobe Creative Suites programs, and so if you're familiar with any of the other Adobe products like Photoshop or Illustrator, then you can rely on some of those commands. Some of the same commands, some of the same kind of layout characteristics will be active in InDesign. So InDesign, as opposed to the other two programs that are in the suite, is really intended for page layout. And so we use InDesign a lot. You'll use it a lot for written projects. You can definitely use it to create a portfolio, but you could also use it as to create frameworks for a presentation. So you may want to create a set of sheets that all have the same layout. Maybe the title is in the same page. Maybe you have a block for an image and you want that sheet to repeat. So you can set up templates, and that's really pretty useful. So let's get started. Let's just open up a quick document. So when we go to InDesign ID, we double click, we're going to go for the print. With the print settings, you can pick sort of standard sizes of paper. And so here's what the interface looks like. The most important thing for this first set of exercises that you're going to do for Studio is probably to set up a template for your page. So you may be creating 10 drawings that should have the same layout. So you'll create a master page, and the master page really sort of sets that framework. I can click a suite of tools. So let's just pick Essentials Classic. And you'll see from the Essentials Classic this piece right here. This is my toolbar, and this is where my primary tools are going to be my selection tool, my text tool, if I want to draw lines, if I need to make frames, if I'm making shapes, and then my color selections. If I have an object selected, I'm going to have two color fields. One is for the outer boundary, and the other is for the interior of the field. So just as an example, if I create that box, right now it's empty and it doesn't have a border, but if I wanted to fill it with a color, I can do that. And if I wanted to give it a border, I can also do that. So I'm just going to toggle back and forth between these two settings to control the interior and the border. When we come over here, we're going to see the page setup, and all of the pages that you see at the bottom are really your document, as opposed to the pages which we see at the top, which are our templates. They're called our master pages. So let's go and develop a master page. So I would want to add those elements that are consistent between the pages onto the master page. So, I can grab my text tool and I can drag open, and maybe we'll deal with the sort of setting up the format later. Maybe at the bottom of the page, I want some kind of a footer with the document title and maybe a page number. For page number, we're going to go to Insert Special Characters, Markers, Current Page Number. And then that way it will actually automatically count my pages. You may or may not want these elements. Maybe you want your name in the footer. But let's assume that this is some kind of an architectural layout. So we probably want, maybe the title doesn't really go at the top. That's more like a paper. We just sort of use these little boxes to create the sizes that we want. And right now, all of our texts are the same size. Let's put in a box, though, that's going to be a placeholder. And so that's on my template now. My title is too small, so I want to increase the size. So let's say that I took this all the way up to a 48-point text. My box was not big enough. And let's even say here we've got a little bit of a differential. So right now with the Essentials, I have my character styles open. So you can see my character is different from my character styles. Character is really just talking about this individual object. But if I want to create this as a style, I will actually go to the Styles menu and I click on this little sheet. It's going to give me a new character style, and I'm going to call that Titles. So now if I ever want to use this same format, I can simply go and highlight a piece of text. Say we wanted to change that, but let's not do that. And let's call this other style, let's call that footer. And now I'm actually going to call this whole thing footer, and it will get that thing back under control. So I can create styles for my characters, I can create styles for my paragraphs, and those are all really good practices. So now I have this sort of good template set up. If I want to select all the objects, I can copy them and I can paste them onto the next. So you can set up your master pages and your document as well to either be a spread, two facing pages, or single pages. For my pages, it's sort of a similar process. If I want to add additional pages, if I'm clicked on an active page, I'm going to just simply add additional pages. And you'll see right now they're all assuming that I want this master A. When I click up here in the top part, I'm actually working on my masters. When I click down here on the bottom part, now I'm working on my document. You can see each page has been laid out with those primary elements. But now when I click on it, I can't seem to edit it. These masters are actually locked. And the nice thing about that is if you have some elements that you know you're not going to be editing, you can put them on the masters and you can never touch them and they will be locked. But if I need to edit my objects, so for example, this frame is not much good unless I can put an image in it, I'm going to hit Apple or Command, Shift, click, and now this is no longer locked. I can do the same thing with the texts, and now those are all available for the changes that I want to make. So this should get you started with InDesign to get your first presentation for Studio started. You'll want to ask Rachel what kinds of labels she wants, what kinds of information she wants. I would say this kind of layout is more appropriate for a book, but if you were doing maybe even just something simple for Studio, maybe you wouldn't have this particular piece, but you might have the title down here, maybe you would have a scale for the drawing, or maybe you would have some descriptive text. The most beautiful image in the world. So if I want to fill this frame with an image, I'm going to click on the frame and I'm going to say Command D, and I can go out and I can add an image. And you can see that as it's come in, it's not to scale. You're going to have two controls on an image. So what you can see, I have two arrows, and this could be a little confusing at first. The first arrow describes the frame. So when I click on it, I see I have this square frame, but the second arrow describes the content. So if I click on the second arrow, and I click on that, you see I'm no longer highlighting the frame because this image is really huge. So it's not fitted to the frame very well. So I can either shortcut to size this proportionately, or I can just go to Object, Fitting, Fill Frame Proportionally, and now that has popped back into shape. Much better. You can see I'm still kind of overlapping here, so I might want to pick a different fitting setting. Fitting, content proportionally. Now the whole object is fitting in there. That seems like a good layout. So the next thing here, we've sort of set up our images. The last thing that you want to do with InDesign is called packaging. What InDesign does in order to be efficient is that it goes out and references objects that live outside of the file. So it hasn't actually imported this object. It's basically imported a reference to the object. So what I want to do is make sure that that object never gets disconnected from this file. So to do that, I'm going to go under File, Package. So I'm going to package it. And what it's now done is create a file folder that has the original file, a PDF of the file, and the fonts, as well as the images that are used in the file. But now if I open that up, I've got a nice kind of clean PDF.